Michael Caine.
Sir Michael Caine, CBE, is an English actor and author. Renowned for his distinctive Cockney accent, Caine has appeared in over 115 films and is one of the UK's most recognisable actors. He made his breakthrough in the 1960s with starring roles in a number of acclaimed British films, including Zulu, 1964, The Ipcress File, 1965, Alfie, 1966, for which he was nominated for an Academy Award, The Italian Job, 1969, and Battle of Britain, 1969. His most notable roles in the 1970s included Get Carter, 1971, Sleuth, 1972, for which he earned his second Academy Award nomination, The Man Who Would Be King, 1975, and A Bridge Too Far, 1978. He achieved some of his greatest critical success in the 1980s, with Educating Rita, 1983, earning him the BAFTA and Golden Globe Award for Best Actor. In 1986 he received an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for his performance in Woody Allen's Hannah and Her Sisters. Caine played Ebenezer Scrooge in The Muppet Christmas Carol, 1992. Having by that time practically retired from acting on the big screen, he enjoyed a career resurgence in the late 1990s, receiving his second Golden Globe Award for his performance in Little Voice in 1998 and receiving his second Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for The Side the House Rules the following year. Caine played Nigel Powers in the 2002 parody Austin Powers and Goldmember, and more recently portrayed Alfred Pennyworth, the butler in Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight trilogy. He also appeared as a supporting character in Alfonso Cuarón's Children of Men, Nolan's 2006 film The Prestige, the 2010 film Inception and Pixar's 2011 film Cars 2. Caine is one of only two actors nominated for an Academy Award for acting in every decade from the 1960s to 2000s, the other one being Jack Nicholson. Laurence Olivier was also nominated for an Acting Academy Award in 5 different decades, beginning in 1939 and ending in 1978. In 2000, Caine was knighted by Queen Elizabeth II in recognition of his contribution to cinema.
Early life.
Caine was born in St Olave's Hospital, Rotherhithe, Bermondsey, London, the son of Ellen Frances Marie, née Burchell. 1900 to 1989, a cook and charwoman, and Maurice Joseph Micklewhite, a fish market porter. His father was of English, Irish, and, reportedly, Irish traveller, ancestry. He was brought up in his mother's Protestant religion, his father was Catholic. Caine had a maternal half-brother, David William Burchell, 1925 to 1992, and a full brother, Stanley Micklewhite, 1936 to 2013. Caine grew up in Southwark, South London, and during the Second World War, he was evacuated to North Runcton near King's Lynn in Norfolk. After the war, his father was demobilised, and the family were rehoused by the council in Marshall Gardens at the Elephant and Castle in a prefabricated house made in Canada, as much of London's housing stock had been damaged during the Blitz in 1940-41. In 1944, he passed his 11-class exam, winning a scholarship to Hackney Downs Grocers' School. After a year there he moved to Wilson's Grammar School in Camberwell, now Wilson's School in Wallington, South London, which he left at 16 after gaining a school certificate in 6 subjects. He then worked briefly as a filing clerk and messenger for a film company in Victoria Street and film producer J. Lewis and Wardour Street. From 1952, when he was called up to do his national service until 1954, he served in the British Army's Royal Fusiliers, first at the BAOA headquarters in Iserlohn, Germany, and then on active service during the Korean War. Caine has said he would like to see the return of national service to help combat youth violence, stating, "I'm just saying, put them in the army for 6 months. You're there to learn how to defend your country. You belong to the country. Then when you come out, you have a sense of belonging rather than a sense of violence." He has also said that when he was a soldier in Korea he got into a situation where he knew he was going to die and the memory of that experience lasted with him and formed his character for the rest of his life, The rest of my life I have lived every bloody moment from the moment I wake up until the time I go to sleep.
Career. 1950s.
Caine's acting career began at the age of 20 in Horsham, Sussex, when he responded to an advertisement in the stage for an assistant stage manager who would also perform small walk-on parts for the Horsham-based Westminster Repertory Company, who were performing at the Carfax Electric Theatre. Adopting the stage name Michael Scott, in July 1953 he was cast as the drunkard Hindley in the company's production of Wuthering Heights. He moved to the Lowestoft Repertory Company in Suffolk for a year when he was 22. It was here that he met his first wife. He has described the first 9 years of his career as really brutal. When his career took him to London in 1954 after his provincial apprenticeship, his agent informed him that there was already a Michael Scott performing as an actor in London and that he had to come up with a new name immediately. Speaking to his agent from a telephone box in Leicester Square, London, he looked around for inspiration, noted that the Caine Mutiny was being shown at the Odeon Cinema in 1954, and decided to change his name to Michael Caine. He joked on television in 1987 that, had a tree partly blocking his view been a few feet to the left, he might have been called Michael Mutiny. Humphrey Bogart was his screen idol, and he would later play the part originally intended for Bogart in John Huston's The Man Who Would Be King. He also later joked in interviews that had he looked the other way, he would have ended up as Michael 101 Dalmatians. This quip is obviously tongue-in-cheek, as the film 101 Dalmatians was not made until 7 years later in 1961. In 1959, he was Peter O'Toole's understudy in Lindsay Anderson's West End staging of Willis Hall's The Long and the Short and the Tall. He took over the role when O'Toole left to make Lawrence of Arabia and went on to a 4-month tour of Britain and Ireland. Michael Caine's first film role was as one of the privates in George Baker's platoon in the 1956 film A Hill in Korea. The stars of the film were George Baker, Stanley Baker, Harry Andrews and Michael Medwin, with Stephen Boyd and Ronald Lewis, and Robert Shaw also had a small part.
1960s.
A big break came for Caine when he was cast as Meph in James Saunders' Cockney comedy Next Time I'll Sing to You, when this play was presented at the New Arts Theatre in London on January 23, 1963. Scenes from the play's performance were featured in the April 1963 issue of Theatre World magazine. When this play moved to the Criterion in Piccadilly with Michael Caine directing, he was visited backstage by Stanley Baker, one of the 4 stars in Caine's first film, A Hill in Korea, who told him about the part of a Cockney private in his upcoming film Zulu, a film Baker was producing and starring in. Baker told Caine to meet the director, C. Enfield, who informed him that he already had given the part to James Booth, a fellow Cockney who was Caine's friend, because he looked more Cockney than Caine did. Enfield then told the 6'2" Caine that he did not look like a Cockney but like an officer, and offered him a screen test for the role of a snobbish, upper-class officer after Caine assured him that he could do a posh accent. Caine believes Enfield offered him, a Cockney, the role of an aristocrat because, being American, he did not have the endemic British class prejudice. Though he tested poorly, Enfield gave him the part that would make him a film star. Location shooting for Zulu took place 14 weeks in Natal, South Africa in 1963. According to his 2011 autobiography The Elephant to Hollywood, Caine had been signed to a 7-year contract by Joseph E. Levine, whose Embassy Films was distributing Zulu. After the return of the cast to England and the completion of the film, Levine released him from the contract, telling him, "I know you're not, but you got to face the fact that you look like a queer on screen." Levine gave his contract to his Zulu co-star James Booth. Subsequently, Caine's agent got him cast in the BBC production Hamlet at Elsinore, 1964, as Horatio, in support of Christopher Plummer's Hamlet. Horatio was the only classical role Caine, who had never received dramatic training, would ever play. Caine wrote, "I decided that if my on-screen appearance was going to be an issue, then I would use it to bring out all Horatio's ambiguous sexuality." After dozens of minor TV roles, Caine finally entered the public eye as the upper-class British Army officer Gonver Brumhead in Zulu. This proved paradoxical, as Caine was to become notable for using a regional accent, rather than the received pronunciation hitherto considered proper for film actors. At the time, Caine's working-class Cockney, just as with the Beatles' Liverpudlian accents, stood out to American and British audiences alike. Zulu was closely followed by two of his best-known roles, the spy Harry Palmer in The Ipcress File, 1965, and the womanizing title character in Alfie, 1966. He went on to play Palmer in a further 4 films, Funeral in Berlin, 1966, Billion Dollar Brain, 1967, Bullet to Beijing, 1995, and Midnight in St. Petersburg, 1995. Caine made his first film in the United States in 1966, after an invitation from Shirley MacLaine to play opposite her in Gambit. During the first 2 weeks, while staying at the Beverly Hills Hotel, he met long-term friends John Wayne and agent Swifty Lazar.
1970s.
After working on The Italian Job with Noel Coward, and a solid role as RAF fighter pilot squadron leader Canfield in the all-star cast of Battle of Britain, both 1969, Caine played the lead in Get Carter, 1971, a British gangster film. Caine was busy with successes including Sleuth, 1972, opposite Laurence Olivier, and The Man Who Would Be King, 1975, co-starring Sean Connery and directed by John Huston, which he has stated will be the film he wishes to be remembered for after his death. In 1976 he appeared in the screen adaptation by Tom Mankiewicz of the Jack Higgins novel The Eagle Has Landed as Oberst, Colonel, Kurt Steiner, the commander of a Luftwaffe paratroop brigade disguised as Polish paratroopers, whose mission was to kidnap or kill the then British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, alongside co-stars Donald Sutherland, Robert Duvall, Jenny Agutter and Donald Pleasance. Subsequently in 1978, he starred in The Silver Bears, an adaptation of Paul Edmonds' 1974 novel of the same name. Caine also was part of an all-star cast in A Bridge Too Far, 1977.
1980s.
By the end of the decade, he had moved to the United States, but his later choice of roles was frequently criticized, something to which he since admitted with many self-deprecating comments about taking part strictly for the money in numerous films he knew to be bad, despite working with highly regarded Hollywood directors such as Irwin Allen, Richard Fleischer, Michael Ritchie and Oliver Stone. Caine then averaged 2 films a year, but these included such failures as the BAFTA Award-nominated The Megas, 1968, the Academy Award-nominated The Swarm, 1978, Ashanti, 1979, which he claimed were the worst 3 films of all the other worst films he ever made, Beyond the Poseidon Adventure, 1979, The Island, 1980, The Hand, 1981, and a reunion with his sleuth co-star Laurence Olivier in The Jigsaw Man, 1982. Although Caine also took better roles, including a BAFTA-winning turn in Educating Rita, 1983, an Oscar-winning one in Hannah and Her Sisters, 1986, and a Golden Globe-nominated one in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, 1988, he continued to appear in notorious darts like the thinly veiled skin flick Blame It on Rio, the Dick Clement and Ian La Frenay's comedy Water, the critical commercial flop Jaws, The Revenge, 1987, about which he had mixed feelings concerning the production and the final cut, and Bullseye, 1990. His appearing in so many films that did not meet with critical or box office acclaim made him the butt of numerous jokes on the subject. Of Jaws, The Revenge, Caine famously said, "I have never seen the film, but by all accounts it was terrible. However, I have seen the house that it built, and it is terrific." All these film failures later became cult films among his fans today. His other successful films, critically and/or financially, were the 1978 Academy Award-winning California Suite, the 1980 Golden Globe-nominated slasher film Dressed to Kill, the 1981 war film Escape to Victory, known simply as Victory in the United States, the 1982 film Death Trap, and the 1986 Academy Award-nominated Mona Lisa. In 1987, Caine narrated Hero, the official film of the 1986 FIFA World Cup. He also starred in Without a Clue, portraying Sherlock Holmes, and also acted as Chief INSP Frederick Aberline in the 1988 TV series Jack the Ripper.
1990s.
In the 1990s, he found good parts harder to come by. He played the mysterious bartender Mike in Mr. Destiny in 1990. A high point came when he played Ebenezer Scrooge in the critically acclaimed The Muppet Christmas Carol, 1992. He played the beleaguered stage director Lloyd Fellows in the film adaptation of Noises Off, 1992. He also played a villain in the Steven Seagal film On Deadly Ground, 1994. He was in 2 straight-to-video Harry Palmer sequels and a few television films. However, Caine's reputation as a pop icon was still intact, thanks to his roles in films such as The Italian Job and Get Carter. His performance in 1998's Little Voice was seen as something of a return to form, and won him a Golden Globe Award. Better parts followed, including The Side the House Rules, 1999, for which he won his 2nd Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor.
2000s.
In the 2000s, Caine appeared in Miss Congeniality, 2000, Last Orders, 2001, The Quiet American, 2002, for which he was Oscar-nominated, and others. Several of Caine's classic films have been remade, including The Italian Job, Get Carter, Alpha and Sleuth. In the 2007 remake of Sleuth, Caine took over the role Laurence Olivier played in the 1972 version, and Jude Law played Caine's original role. Caine also starred in Austin Powers in Goldmember, 2002, as Austin's father, and in 2003 he co-starred with Robert Duvall in Secondhand Lions. Caine played family elder Henry Lair in the 2004 film, Around the Bend. In 2005, he was cast as Bruce Wayne's butler Alfred Pennyworth in the first production of the new Batman film series, Batman Begins. In 2006, he appeared in the films Children of Men and The Prestige. In 2007 he appeared in Flawless, and in 2008 and 2012 he reprised his role as Alfred in Christopher Nolan's critically acclaimed Batman sequels, The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, as well as starring in the British drama Is Anybody There?, which explores the final days of life. It was reported by Empire magazine that Caine had said that Harry Brown, released on November 13, 2009, would be his last lead role. Caine later declared, in the Daily Mirror, that he had been misquoted by the magazine.
2010s.
Caine appeared in Christopher Nolan's science fiction thriller Inception as Professor Stephen Miles, Cobbs, Leonardo DiCaprio, mentor and father-in-law. He voiced Finn McMissile in Pixar's 2011 film Cars 2 and also voiced a supporting role in the animation, Romeo and Juliet. He also starred in the 2012 film Journey to The Mysterious Island, as Josh Hutcherson's character's grandfather. A film also featured Dwayne Johnson and Vanessa Hudgens. Caine reprised his role as Alfred Pennyworth in the Batman sequel, The Dark Knight Rises, which was released in July 2012. Filming of his scenes took place at Wollerton Hall, Wollerton, Nottinghamshire, England. He is expected to appear in Christopher Nolan's 2014 science fiction film, Interstellar. Caine is cast in The Secret Service for director Matthew Vaughn.
Awards and honors.
Caine has been Oscar-nominated 6 times, winning his first Academy Award for the 1986 film Hannah and Her Sisters, and his second in 1999 for The Side the House Rules, in both cases as a supporting actor. His performance in Educating Rita in 1983 earned him the BAFTA and Golden Globe Award for Best Actor. He was appointed Commander of the Order of the British Empire, CBE, in the 1992 Queen's Birthday Honours, and in the 2000 New Year Honours he was knighted as Sir Maurice Micklewhite CBE. In 2000 he received a BAFTA Academy Fellowship Award. On January 5, 2011, Caine was made a Commander of the Ordre des Arts et des Lettres by France's Culture Minister, Frédéric Mitterrand. In 2008, He was awarded the prize for Outstanding Contribution to Show Business at the Variety Club Awards.
In popular culture,
Caine is a popular subject for impressionists and mimics, having a voice and manner of speaking that are distinctive, yet fairly easy to imitate. Most Caine impressions include the catchphrase "Not a lot of people know that." Peter Sellers initiated this when he appeared on BBC One's Parkinson show on October 28, 1972 and said, "Not many people know that. This is my Michael Caine impression." You see, Mike's always quoting from the Guinness Book of Records. At the drop of a hat he'll trot one out. Did you know that it takes a man in a tweed suit 5.5 seconds to fall from the top of Big Ben to the ground? Now there's not many people who know that. The line had been used earlier in Spike Milligan's script for The Last Goon Show of All, performed on October 5, 1972. In 1983, Caine was given the line to say as an in-joke in the film Educating Rita. The British comedy sketch show, Harry Enfield's television programme, included a series of sketches in which Paul Whitehouse played a character called Michael Caine. An amalgam of previous Michael Caine impressions, who in a reference to the press file wears oversized, thick-rimmed glasses and a trench coat. He introduces himself with the line, "My name is Michael Caine, and I am a nosy neighbor," and in a spoof of the stakeout at the beginning of the press file, recounts to the camera the suspiciously mundane behavior of his neighbors, before saying, "Not a lot of people know that I know that." Caine himself parodied the phenomenon in an interview with Michael Parkinson, imitating others' impressions of him and including the catchphrase. A parody of Michael Caine also appears in the animated series Ugly Americans, in the episode The Dark Knight, which also parodies the film The Dark Knight. In the episode, Caine appears as himself, portrayed in the light of his Alfred Pennyworth interpretation, and constantly annoys the protagonists with endless anecdotes of his career. The Trip, starring Rob Brydon and Steve Coogan, featured improvised scenes in which the two leads argue over who can do the better Michael Caine impression. Among the lines they repeat in their attempts to outdo each other are, "You were only supposed to blow the bloody doors off," and "She was only 16" from the Italian Job and Get Cutter, respectively. Craig Ferguson has run segments on his show where he parodies Caine, usually while wearing a space suit.
personal life,
Caine lives in Leatherhead, Surrey, and is patron to the Leatherhead Drama Festival. He has also lived in North Stoke, Oxfordshire, Clewer near Windsor, Berkshire, Lowestoft in Suffolk and Chelsea Harbour in London. In addition, Caine owns an apartment at the Apogee in Miami Beach, Florida. He still keeps a small flat near where he grew up in southeast London. Caine has published 2 volumes of memoirs, What's It All About? in 1992 and The Elephant to Hollywood in 2010. He was married to actress Patricia Haynes from 1955 to 1962. They have a daughter, Dominique, who was named after the heroine of the novel The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. He dated Bianca Jagger in 1968. Caine has been married to actress and model Shakira Baksh since January 8, 1973. They met after Caine saw her appearing in a Maxwell House coffee commercial and a friend gave him her telephone number. They have a daughter, Natasha Haley-Emma. Caine quit his 80-a-day cigarette habit in the early 1970s after a lecture by Tony Curtis. Sometime after his mother died, Caine and his younger brother, Stanley, learned they had an elder half-brother, named David. He suffered from severe epilepsy and had been kept in Cane Hill Mental Hospital his entire life. Although their mother regularly visited her first son in the hospital, even her husband did not know the child existed. David died in 1992. Trivia books written by Caine include Not Many People Know That, and Not Many People Know This Either. Michael Caine's moving picture show and Not a Lot of People Know This is 1988. Proceeds from the books went to the National Playing Fields Association, now Fields in Trust, of which Caine was a prominent supporter. Caine was called up for national service in the British Army in 1951 when he was aged 18 and was deployed to South Korea to help in the aftermath of the North Korean invasion. He served as part of the Royal Fusiliers. He said he had gone into it feeling sympathetic to communism, coming as he did from a poor family. But he has said the experience left him permanently repelled. Caine is a frequent collaborator with director Christopher Nolan, having appeared in 5 of the filmmaker's 8 films: Batman Begins, The Prestige, The Dark Knight, Inception, and The Dark Knight Rises. He also has a role in Nolan's upcoming movie Interstellar. Caine was well acquainted with John Wayne and Jane Russell, and he visited Wayne while the latter was in hospital, suffering from terminal stomach cancer.
Politics.
Caine has often spoken publicly about his political views. He left the UK for the United States in the late 1970s, citing the 83% income tax levied on top earners by the Labour government of James Callaghan, but returned to Britain 8 years later after taxes had been lowered by the Conservative government of Margaret Thatcher. Following the launch of his film Harry Brown, Caine called for the reintroduction of national service in the UK to give young people a sense of belonging rather than a sense of violence. In 2009, Caine publicly criticised the Labour government of Gordon Brown for its newly introduced 50% income tax rate on top earners and threatened to return to the United States if his taxes were increased further. During the run-up to the 2010 general election, Caine publicly endorsed the Conservative Party and appeared with party leader David Cameron for the launch of a civilian non-compulsory national service for 16-year-olds, although he claimed he had previously supported New Labour under the leadership of Tony Blair in 1997.
Musical career.
Caine is a fan of chill-out music and has compiled a mixed CD called Caned, which was released in 2007 by UMTV. He met Elton John and was discussing musical tastes, when Caine claimed that he had been creating chill-out mixtapes as an amateur for years. Also in music, Caine provided vocal samples for the ska pop band Madness for their 1984 hit Michael Caine as his daughter was a fan. He has sung in film roles as well, including for the musical film, The Muppet Christmas Carol.
Filmography, awards and nominations.